Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're out the range to talk about survival weapons, weapons that you would pick up that are generally affordable, that you could arm yourself or family members with, pick up one or more of them. And this is something that's nothing new really to the 2A community. When I was a younger man in the 1980s, survivalism is what they called it, and it was all the rage. They made movies about it. Robin Williams had a movie called The Survivalists, I believe. So it's been this ongoing theme. And I also want to apologize if you guys hear wind noise. If you're wondering why many of our videos are filmed in this shooting shack, it's because when we picked up the range out here, we didn't know that the only safe direction to shoot would be out west. And then if you look out here as we're shooting downrange, we put downrange cameras and stuff up, you'll see that it's just flat as a pancake, and we get regularly high winds. And with high winds, microphones don't work so well. When it's cold outside and high winds, it gets unbearable very quickly. That's why we built the shooting shack. But as soon as it warms up and we get rid of some of these high winds and we can actually get good audio, we'll be back outside. So just wanted to throw that out there because some people have asked. All right, so the rifle I have in front of me is the SKS. This rifle, when I was a younger man, this was the go-to survival rifle. Why was that? Well, the ammunition, 7.62x39, was dirt cheap. It was coming in out of China back then. It had the steel penetrators in it before all that was banned because the OA-93 pistol, separate story. And the guns themselves were anywhere from $50 to $70. And they were like unissued condition back then. These would be Chinese, Norinco type rifles and stuff like this. The one I have in front of me here is a Romanian, but there were a number of different SKSs that would come into the country over the years. The more rare, the more expensive they became. The point being the Chinese ones in the 80s, maybe the early 90s, were dirt cheap. So people would buy them in bulk. They'd go out and buy them maybe 10 at a time. And then they would have enough firearms for their entire family. And the 7.62, of course, my 39 was very affordable. That has changed. In 2024, these things are no longer inexpensive. These things are no longer commonly available. And the ammunition has gone up in price significantly for a number of different factors, which we'll talk briefly about in today's video. So let's start off taking a look at the SKS, and then let's talk about some options that have replaced the SKS as affordable options. And they're not going to be $79. Those days are gone, folks. They're just gone. But they're affordable by today's standards. And so we'll talk about that. So let's get started. A lot of folks ask me, how can I get involved in the firearms business in that particular community? And one of the best ways to do that is to become a gunsmith. Every gunsmith I know is just overbooked with work. It's a very good living. And so if you would like to become a gunsmith, you need to go to a gunsmithing school or become an apprentice for an existing gunsmith. But Modern Gun School is an accredited college that also works with veterans in the GI Bill, where you can go and get a degree from accredited college in gunsmithing and then go out and start your own gunsmithing business, which I think is a really great option. Again, throughout my entire life, gunsmiths have always been able to earn a really good living, assuming they have a really strong work ethic. So please check out Modern Gun School. I do have a link in the video description below. So the SKS, as I already mentioned, was really popular during the 80s survivalist craze, but rifles like this AKM were also commonly available, not very popular, and affordable by today's standards. Rifles like this would sell for $270 to $300 generally at a gun show. The AKs were considered to be Chinese junk back then, and nobody really wanted them, keeping in mind that we were just coming out of the Vietnam War. The Vietnam War was 10 years ago when these things were $300, and a lot of people hated the communist junk, right? Because back then we were anti-communist. Now the communists run the show. But people thought they were garbage, so they were really affordable, and sometimes you could find them even cheaper than that. The spikers would probably be a little bit more expensive. It's been a few years, but just the basic AKM was really affordable that was imported from China. But these things were dirt cheap. Now the SKS, because it was in the $70 range, let's say, was the most popular. And people would pick them up, and you'd see people try to accurize them. They'd put little B-square mounts back here, replace the dust cover, put really chintzy optics on them. Everything they did was really, generally speaking, affordable. Then stocks started coming out, like Choate stocks and stuff like that, for them to put side folders on them. People would modify them to get rid of their 10-round magazines that are internal, and they would modify them to use AKM-style magazines. And even the Chinese got in on that game and modified some of them, and I featured those rifles here on the channel. So there was this effort to turn these into AKs because they were a third of the price, let's say. But these things were also really reliable. The SKS is a great rifle. Keep in mind this gun was designed in the 1940s. It would go into military service immediately after World War II in the Soviet Union, but many of the comm bloc countries would also pick it up. So like this is a Romanian, the Chinese. There's all sorts of SKSs out there to choose from. For collectors today, that's fun. But this rifle, I'm going to guess because it's a Romanian, it's going to be in the $600+ range, I'm guessing. I can't keep up with the prices as they go up. So it's not that affordable gun anymore. The cool thing about them is they use stripper clips. And back in the days when we were still getting Norinco AK ammo, it would generally come on stripper clips, and people would throw these things away because every single case of ammunition you bought, the ammo was already on a stripper clip, so you could easily put it into the rifle and charge the weapon up quite easily, and all that good stuff. So the stripper clip was popular. The Chinese chest rigs were popular that will hold the stripper clips, and you go out and shoot these things all day long. I mean, gosh, ammunition was like $60 for 1,000 rounds or something ridiculous. It was just so cheap, and so you could go out and shoot all day, get lots of practice, which is important for a defensive rifle like this. Let's just do a little bit of quick shooting here with this and fire off those rounds I put in here. Just some PMC. Gotta get the safety in the right position. So they're very pleasant rifles to shoot. They use a short stroke gas piston. They're very easy to maintain. They're extremely easy to take apart. There's just not much to them. And so you would find that people would use them for that purpose. I mean, field stripping them is really, literally that simple. So, you know, it made a lot of sense. It really, really did. And so did the AKs. But again, these, I would say, were less popular than these simply because they were 2-3 times more expensive. It wouldn't be until the Chinese import bans came about that these rifles, especially the Norincos and stuff like that, started skyrocketing in price. The Chinese AKM started skyrocketing in price, and then they became truly not something you would want to use in a self-defense situation. A rifle like the Spiker, they're worth thousands now. I would not even think about using this thing as a survival rifle or a go-to rifle. This is a collectible now. It went from being a $300 junker to a highly valuable, you know, collectible. It's funny how the market can switch. So what would you do today? I mean, the $79 days are gone, but are the $300 and $400 days gone? Not so much. So you may ask yourself, why are we talking about cost? Cost isn't everything, and I would agree with that. But keep in mind, folks, we're talking about rifles that you might want to stack up for use, not just for yourself, but for family members, friends, things like that. So you want to have rifles that are affordable, use the same magazines, use the same ammunition, just because of logistics. That's why we're talking about affordable. I'm not saying that your go-to rifle has to be something that's $400 or $500. Go out and buy that Knight's Armament. Go out and buy the Daniel Defense. Go out and buy whatever it is your heart desires. I like the SIG Spear, but do I have the resources to stack up 10 SIG Spears to hand out to my friends and family? No, I don't, not even close. So that's the reason we're talking about affordable. And typically in the survival community, they want affordable handguns and rifles and even shotguns to stow away. Some people like to go out and bury things at different locations. Just in case something goes sideways, they have to leave their home. At least they know they can go here, here, or here, and they'll have food, water, weapons, ammunition, things that they need to survive. And so it's for those types of people I'm talking about these lower cost options, or for those of you on a budget. So what's the new affordable hotness? I'm glad you asked. AR-15. So keep this in mind, guys. I bought my first AR-15 in high school. It would have been the late 80s. And the cost of the rifle, I still have it written in its owner's manual, was $550, okay? That was for a Colt A2. It was an A2 Sporter 2, but we've, again, featured that rifle here on the channel before. And what's interesting about that is if I put it into an inflation calculator and calculate the cost of $550 back in the 80s versus 2024 numbers, that $550 AR-15 is equivalent to $1,586 in today's currency. Seems about right. A quality AR-15 is going to cost you $1,200 to $1,500. I mean, that's just what they're going to go for. And you can spend twice that much if you get into Gucci brands like, you know, LWRC, Knight's Armament, those types of rifles. But there are extremely affordable ARs. And there's a number of reasons for that. So the cost of production has come way down because it's the thing that was developed in the 1960s. Right? So there's so many companies making parts and accessories and everything like that. So many competing products out there. It's driven, that market pressure has driven the price down so you can get PSA ARs, which this is a PSA lower that I have on here. and an Expo Arms upper from Primary Arms with a really affordable Cyclops prism sight from Primary Arms on top of it. So this would be a budget AR-15, but you can pick up complete rifles from PSA for $499. You can get blims, sometimes even less than that. But if you pick them up on the used market, if somebody spends $500 for a PSA, trades it in on something else, you can usually pick that thing up for less than $400, $350 or something like that. So the AR-15 has really come down in price. And if you take a look at that $300 for the AKM that I would have paid for that spiker back in the day, yeah, that equates to $865 in 2024 currency. That's about what PSA is selling their AKs for, $899 for an AK. Same thing with KUSA, right around $1,000. So it really seems like some of those prices really haven't changed all that much, but what has changed the most is that the affordable imports like the SKS, those imports have dried up due to laws, due to shortage of products. They've only had so many of them in storage that they could sell. They dried up, and now the market is shifted to the AR-15, America's rifle, and it's now the most affordable option out there. And I think that's awesome, because if you serve in the military, you're going to serve with an M16. At home, you can own an AR-15 unless the anti-gunners get their way. It is truly America's rifle. It is universally used. It's used for hunting, self-defense. It's used all over the board. Matter of fact, I just came back from Europe. I went to the EWA show, and the AR-15, they're telling me, is gaining in popularity in Europe, where it's legal, for hunting over there as well. And so the AR really is an amazing rifle, and the fact that you can pick up a good rifle for $500 is awesome. So that is your new prepping gun, in my opinion. Pick up something like a PSA $400 and some odd rifle. And people are going to say, well, what about the quality? Is the quality there? Well, I'm going to tell you, we'll test this. So most of my AR-15s, like this is pretty much the only budget AR-15 I have. Most of mine are mid to upper tier rifles. That's just what I gravitate towards. I do need to pick up a PSA and run 3,000 to 5,000 rounds through it. And let's just find out. Will the thing handle it? I'm sure it will. Almost dropped this one on the ground. I'm sure it will, but let's find out. And you have to ask yourself, if this is for self-defense purposes in, unrestful times, whatever you want to call it, shiznit hits the fan, how many rounds do you really think you're going to fire in that type of a situation? You think you're going to be in running gun battles every single day? You need to stockpile 60,000 rounds and set out range markers all over your property so you can engage in that morning's firefight activities? No, that's not how you're going to stay alive. You're not going to want to shoot it all that much. Hunt a little bit, defense if necessary, but try to stay out of trouble. So people that would say, well, that gun will never make it to 20,000 rounds. Well, that gun doesn't need to make it to 20,000 rounds. All the gun needs to make it to is 5,000 rounds, right? So anyway, let's do a little bit of shooting with this bad boy. We are using some Federal, and this is 62 grain ammunition. Love Federal ammo. They do send the ammunition free of charge to us, and been using this stuff since I was a kid. Literally been shooting it out of my AR-15 since the 80s. Yeah, let's see. I don't think I've zeroed this sight. Let's do some stump shooting. I tell you guys, those full-length buffer tubes really are smooth. That recoil impulse on these things is awesome with that. Wind is really awesome with that rifle-length buffer tube on there. So, in closing, what do you guys think? If you had to pick an affordable go-to rifle, what would you pick? Comment down below. Maybe we'll make a video on that rifle. Maybe I've overlooked something here. I'm going to go with the AR-15. Rifles like the PSA, there's other competitive products out there that are just as affordable, just under a different brand name. Let me know in the comments. If you guys would like to support us here at the Military Arms Channel, the best way to do that is become part of our Patreon family. You'll get early access to videos like this one. You have direct access to me. I answer all private communications. Link in the video description below. Right here on YouTube, you got the support buttons underneath the video player you're watching right now. You can hit those buttons to support us right here on YouTube in the age of demonetization. Last but not least, please swing by and check out Copper Custom. Thank you for 16 years of support. We'll talk to you guys soon.